Everybody's muted out right now, so we can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Let's see, we have Eric Dollard up here in Spokane, Washington, up from his lab out in the middle of the Nevada desert. And I was just down there about, I don't know, it was almost 2 months ago, month and a half, 2 months ago, kind of seeing what's going on. And if you've seen a few pictures in Facebook or in energeticforum.com or on Eric's Google Plus profile page, you can see a couple pictures where Eric's kind of looking over John Polakowski's shoulder, kind of watching him work on a transmitter which is used for the cosmic induction generator. And they're making good progress on that. And as of now, John is working on a larger power supply. And in addition to that, Eric is working on some other projects, including a new book, which is even newer than the one which we haven't released yet, which we're going to be releasing. We're going to be releasing here in a couple days. And so the first item on our list is just to let you know about the book. At the end of July this year, at the Bedini-Lindemann 2013 conference, Eric Dollard was the keynote speaker at the end of the day and gave a talk called Four-Quadrant Representation of Electricity. And that video presentation is available at fourquadranttheory.com. And or if you go to ericpdollard.com, you'll see a link to it. And if you use the link on Eric's page, that will actually earn the most funds for Eric and his work in supporting his lab. Following the conference, Eric was working non-stop, literally practically 7 days a week, 8 hours a day, getting that book together that Jeff and Peter are assembling right now.
Oh, it definitely was 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for months.
For months.
Yeah.
And our goal, it looks like we're going to be able to release this new book, which is based on, well, actually the presentation at the conference is based on the material in this book, and it goes way, quite a bit deeper into Tesla's rotating magnetic fields and the four-quadrant theory that Eric is well known for. So that'll be this Thursday, probably early afternoon, we'll be able to launch that, so keep your eyes out for that. Let's see, some of the other things on our agenda here. Yesterday, or no, it was about the day before yesterday, Eric and I went to a friend of mine's warehouses. His name is Mark McKay, and you might know him from the last year's conference, or if you're following the Ed Gray technology. Mark McKay is the authority on the history of the Ed Gray motor. He gave a talk on that last year. He's flown around the country, met with different family members of Ed Gray, his old investors and stuff, and has tracked down the whole chronology and sequence of events of what happened with the whole Ed Gray technology. It's not really a how-to presentation, but if you do want to know the history from somebody who has more information on it compiled than anybody else, his presentation is at evgrayrevealed.com. Now, this year at the conference, I had introduced Eric to Mark McKay because Mark has probably one of the largest collections in the Northwest United States for a lot of old, hard-to-get electronic components, scopes, capacitors, tuning coils. I mean, you name it. It's like when I took you over there, Eric. What did you think?
Well, it's kind of hard to say. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's multiple warehouse buildings, multiple semi-trailers and little buildings, just full boxes and boxes and just shelves full of this stuff that Mark has accumulated over the years. And right after the conference, through me introducing Eric to Mark, and Mark had also replicated Eric's radiant matter experiment, or what would you describe that experiment as?
Well, that was the Tesla radiant matter tube with the light bulb, which I showed in the Borderland videos. He managed to reproduce all of that, and we got it to work at the conference. You could actually feel the radiant matter coming out of the bulb and charge a capacitor with it. Right. So that was a success.
Feels like the pressure that. Right.
Yeah.
And so now Mark, being a fan of Eric's work, Mark brought that experiment to the conference, and Eric was tuning it and kind of tweaking it a little bit here and there, and they actually got it working. And so there'll be more information on that coming out. But Mark is the one who, because of his support in the so-called free energy community and being a longtime fan of Eric's, has donated quite a bit of equipment that he's willing to let Eric take down to the lab, which, that was all ready to go a couple months ago until some of the, if you've been following Eric and even some of my stuff on Energetic Forum, you know that there's been some...
The Gang of Four
controversy.
No controversy. It's a real thing.
All these lies and propaganda against Eric Dollard and myself, none of it is true. There's plenty of witnesses to it. We don't have to go that deep into it. But in any case, there's thousands of pounds of equipment worth many, many thousands of dollars. And a lot of it, you'd be hard to
never find it.
You'd never even find it.
Never find it.
That's how rare some of this stuff is. And I took a 45-minute video of that with Eric, kind of explaining what a lot of that stuff is. I'll be posting that on YouTube for everybody to look at. And so, from the Spokane area, being that there's quite a few of us up here, and being supportive of Eric's work, there really is a lot of help and support for Eric up here by multiple members of the energy community up here. And so Mark McKay is definitely one, and it's very, he's kind enough to be willing to let a lot of that stuff go. Knowing that it's going into Eric's hands, he'll know, more about what to do with that stuff than most people. So stay tuned for that. Another update is the cosmic induction generator, which a lot of you probably have heard of. And a month and a half ago when I was down at Eric's lab, I took some video and some bunch of pictures. Most of it I haven't released yet because we're going to wait until we're ready to launch a fundraiser to help support Eric in his lab. But I met with John Polakowski down there and Eric, and they were working on it. And what's the status and the updates on the cosmic induction generator project going on down there?
Well, right now it's split and it's operating as a telluric receiver. So that was the first step, was to get it to receive. So it is receiving out of the ground. And then it was quite an effort and an expense to get all this stuff together. The World War II Navy transmitter, the junction box was wired wrong originally in World War II, so that got us off to a good start. And then it wasn't made in America, it was made in Canada, so it didn't match the manual. And then after that, it just kept escalating, and then the main loading coil shattered in the transmitter. We found the frame was cracked on the receiver. And we had to fight our way through all that, and then, so that's done now, and next week we're planning on connecting everything together and at least getting, it's not going to make any fantastic discharges, but it'll show the basic operating principles and the resonance and receiving and all the necessary things to pretty much show how, this Tesla technology, this telluric and wireless transmission and all the things that people have been talking about, well, this is stuff that actually works.
Right.
It's not Hollywood, giant thrills or anything that's a long ways off from that, but it already cost about $5,000 to get to this point.
Right.
And then John is finishing up the 1,000 watt exciter. So right now, before you apply 1,000 watts, we're only going to apply 40 watts for safety, and tuning and all that type of stuff. And then we have another transmitter that has a separate power supply, and we've planned to get about 150 watts out of that, and then that should light up the fluorescent lamps and the things that are needed to show the field. And then the next step is when John finishes the big unit, then we can expect, the giant fractal discharges and all kinds of that stuff to start happening.
Right.
So John's been working on it half-time now for about, I'd say it's getting on about 2 years. When I met him, a long time ago, he picked up on this, and this is what he wanted to do, and he's sticking with it. So, anytime he gets in a bind, all he has to do is call me, and then, and then I designed all the circuits, and,
Right.
So he's getting his PhD electrical engineering education right now.
Right.
Putting this thing together.
Okay. One thing right here, now in the cosmic induction generator project, obviously the potential is to scale that up pretty big with your giant...
well, we have 5,000 watt AM transmitters for that.
Right, it's about the size of like two or three refrigerators each.
Well, the things are basically, they're as heavy as my car and have more volume.
Uh-huh.
They're the size of a large automobile.
Uh-huh.
So you could put the refrigerators, maybe, you know, 2 big ones and 1 little one, stacked it on the top or put it in there.
Yeah, they're the size of a photo booth. The kind you go in and sit down in with
they're big.
2 people. Yeah, they're giant. And so
well, that's not considered giant. You should see a 50 kWA transmitter, or how about a 200,000 watt one?
Right.
So they're tiny.
But those 5,000 watt ones, those are big enough for
yeah, that gets
serious
to duplicate some stuff that was done in Santa Barbara with the music flame speaker arrangement.
Right.
To take it to the level where if I could ever duplicate that again, some people just when we demonstrated it in Santa Barbara, some people just refused to even exist that it could possibly be real. They thought it was a hallucination or mind control. Right. Because it's so fantastic. One person ran from the room, and the music could be heard a mile away. Right. So if we can get to that point, that's good theatrics. Right. But there are more practical ends to this, which are communications and various industrial processes and stuff. So it's not just a complete Hollywood reality, but nevertheless. The people that are providing the money for this project kind of want to see the Hollywood, so that's what, it will go, and the rest of it will all fall in place. Right. But because there's going to be, like government and corporations and things involved, I can't talk about it, what any of these things might be. Sure. But at any rate, the public is supporting this project, so the public gets its part of the project, and so there will be an unclassified element that will, if I can pull it off and not get screwed up, at some point it's going to be fantastic. Right. But it's still, the expense to get to that point right now is, it's something to consider.
Right. So definitely look for more updates on the cosmic induction generator, and if you want to see the latest work that John Polakowski is doing with that power supply and some other people moving in this direction, energeticforum.com. If you go in there to the renewable energy section, you can see an Eric Dollard forum, and inside there's an Eric Dollard thread where different users like Jay Polakaw, who's John Polakowski, there's DR Green, and some other people are posting quite a few pictures on a lot of the coils that they're making right now.
Well, the Crystal Radio Initiative started this process where there's quite a few people that are making some really significant experiments in this stuff. It's actually quite amazing. This is happening. Right. Scale model duplications of Colorado Springs. Some people have successfully drawn, small quantities of usable power from the local AM broadcast station through the ground. Right. I'm quite excited about how the whole thing's taken off, and I really don't even need to maintain it. Right. That's what's nice. I can just go back off in the bushes and be left alone.
Right, and it carries on.
It all does its own thing.
Right.
So, who could ask for more than that?
Right. Now one thing before we move on, Eric, can you tell everybody what your real website address is?
Yeah, is that Eric P. Dollard, not Eric Dollard. That's identity theft. It's Eric P. Dollard.
So ericpdollard.com is your website, not Eric Dollard.
The Eric Dollard website is an identity theft move. Right. So for entertainment purposes, you can go to that to see what the Gang of Four is up to. Because to me, all this stuff is fun. And that's the way we should look at it. These people are particular species of salamander that actually be quite exciting to observe in their mud hole. And I encourage people to do it. Because this is what science is all about.
Right. So, so if you're on this call right now, I'm also video recording this, but it's taking up some computer resources, so you hear this little whining in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video recording. You can see that Eric obviously just read it off the computer screen that it's ericpdollard.com. And if you go to that page, there's little buttons at the very top right where you can click for his, follow Eric on Twitter, his Google profile page. There's even an RSS news feed link, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So at ericpdollard.com, if you go there, any site that is referred or linked to from there, you know that it's the real Eric Dollard pages. And if it's not on that page, then it's an imposter site if they're trying to make it look like Eric Dollard, like it's Eric's site, but it's really not, because that Eric Dollard was registered without Eric's knowledge or consent, and a lot of things were posted on there, making a whole lot of wild claims and stuff that Eric didn't even know was being said in his name. So just be aware of that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the video recording, but we'll stay on the phone. It might take a minute or so for my computer processor to kind of wind down here. Okay, over about the next minute or so, my computer will get quieter in the background, so I apologize for that. Next thing is, let's see, we can probably go ahead and just go into some live questions. And
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and unmute. Let's see.
Hello.
Okay.
I
happen to have a question. Go ahead and state your name, maybe where you're from, and go ahead and ask your question, and then Eric can go ahead and answer you.
Bernie from the Tri-Cities. You know where that's at?
Yeah.
I have a 60 kilovolt X-ray power transformer that runs off a 220 single phase and at 100 milliamps output at 60 kV. I also have a 2 microfarad 50 kV capacitor. I'm thinking of donating to you guys. Could you use it?
Yeah, that's not really something I can use right now because I'm not doing a lot of high voltage DC work right now. Mostly I'm doing radio frequencies type stuff. Okay. I'm sure there's 100 people that would just jump for it, but right now, particularly being that the situation is kind of iffy with the building I'm in, I couldn't really use it at that point.
Okay. I also have a 60-year background in RF communications, if that's any help to you guys.
I'm mostly into the big RF transmitters, like with RCA, but that's how I started. And most of the Navy equipment, too, because I don't have any way to really any atmospheric work anymore. All that stuff's gone. I don't know how to find it anymore.
Okay. I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
I had a question about the hairpin circuit.
Hairpin circuit question?
You mean Tesla's hairpin circuit?
Yeah, it has to do with capacitors being able to block DC currents. Well, are the capacitors large enough to where they block low frequency AC but allow the longitudinal waves to pass through them?
Well, what the capacitors do is they pass the transient but not the continuous part. So the more rapid the transient, the more current you can get through the capacitor. The Tesla hairpin thing was the so-called hairpin. There's a number of UHF circuits that are also called hairpin. I don't know if Tesla was the one that initiated that name, but what it is, in Tesla's case, it's a one-turn inductance. And then he had a capacitance that was heavily charged, and it discharged in this one-turn inductance, and the inductance was so low, and its current handling capability was so high that the condenser would discharge in fractions of a microsecond, and it would produce these radiant impulses that he did his experiments with. This is one of the things that got him started in a lot of his work, was that particular disruptive discharge, producing these incredible electromagnetic transients from the thousands or hundreds of thousands of amps that were flowing through the hairpin inductance coil.
So these transients, they pass through the capacitors, and when they are connected to like a light bulb, the light bulb is what's kind of receiving the energy, kind of like a solar panel, to the radiant energy.
Well, no, I don't know. I don't quite understand what you're saying. So that doesn't relate to
is the transient allowing the light, like the incandescent light bulb, when it's hooked up to that circuit, is it activating the light bulb so that radiant energy now can come through the ether into? It's almost like a reverse flow of energy.
Well, now the light bulb on it in that case is that's the load. The capacitor is not blocking anything. What the capacitor is doing is it's the storage of dielectric energy, and when you hook that short circuit across it, it has to blast. The average of power of the transients, because it's done continuously, the one transient follows another. It's a series of pulses. Then that creates an electromotive force that you can light the lamp off on. If the lamp is operating on transient currents, then the lamp will emit radiant matter.
I'm sorry, Mr. Caller. You were saying that it's operating off of transient currents, and then you broke up there. Something about radiant matter?
Yeah, because the incandescent lamp is operating on transient waves, then the filament, besides producing the infrared and the regular thermal type of lights, is now also producing the radiant matter.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Could you guys use some RF coils from a 25 kW transmitter?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, I got a bunch of those. I'll donate those.
Thank you.
Yes, I also have a question real quick.
Go ahead.
I also have some real large tuning capacitors from the same 25 kW transmitter.
Well, that's even better. That makes the coils even more valuable, because then I can get you know what frequency the transmitter was operating on?
It was an FM broadcast transmitter.
FM?
Yeah, the 100 megahertz range.
Okay, well the coils don't particularly have a lot of turns, but then the thing is they could be good primary coils for. So how many turns do the coils have on them?
I think the biggest one only has about 5.
Oh, that's good.
They're all silver plated, including the giant piston capacitors.
Okay. Well, yeah, that stuff would work really good for making Tesla transformers. I'd love that.
And they have a mechanical number dials on them, so you can return to the same place by watching the numbers go by.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
All right. I'll make a
thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? I've got one more. Hi. Hello, is anybody there? Yes. I would like to know if you're familiar with Walter Bowman Russell and his diagrams for the optical dynamo generator.
Well, I know of him, but I really don't know anything about anything he was working on.
Thank you.
Well, hi, this is Jack from Honolulu, and it's my pleasure to talk to Eric, and I would like to ask about, have you heard of Mr. Lester Hendershot and the Hendershot device?
I remember that from Borderlands. I always viewed it as a dead end.
So not really a viable device, sort of a fringe, but not replicatable?
Yeah, it's like all the rest of them. There's really not enough data to produce anything. There's a lot of mythology. I found no need to get involved in any of that stuff, because what I discovered and learned about Tesla and Farnsworth and all the rest of them, there wasn't any reason to fool around with any of that stuff, because it's not duplicable. There's not enough information. So I went the route where it's engineerable and known to work. So that's why, as an engineer, the things I built work. So the Tesla stuff that I've built works, because that's what an engineer does. The other stuff,
it could even be, from the conspiracy theory standpoint, it could be considered like ballast to draw people's energy into dead-end avenues so they don't make anything that works. I mean, that's kind of a harsh way to look at it, but then I have a harsh attitude.
Oh, that's fine. I think I like your down-to-earth attitude. It's very good. And I've listened to your lectures and tried to understand the four-quadrant type of things, and particularly the rotations, the 90-degree rotations into different frames of reference, into different dimensions, which is the best explanation of multiple rotations in different frames of reference that I've ever heard before. And so that's excellent work that you're doing. So I know that there's a lot of things to be discovered there, and also, do you estimate perhaps that there could be a tabletop or a scaled down version of the Alexanderson system that would be a useful device?
Well, the thing with the Alexanderson system is the rotating machine is not particularly useful. Because a lot of that now can be done with vacuum tubes, but the antenna right now is my primary work, is the Alexanderson antenna. I lost my facility at Landers. It cited about between $1.5 and maybe $4 or $5 million. I don't know how to replace it, but the Alexanderson thing is my main research. So I have something going on right now in what I call Area 52. Which is out on an ungodly part of the desert, and the government security reality as far as anything goes out there, where I probably could put something together.
Yeah, well, I thought your tenacity and your ability to bounce back from unbelievable setbacks is just really amazing to me, and I just encourage you to help you in any way that I'm able to.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's incredible, the kind of things, and also I appreciate your efforts to put this stuff out there so anybody that makes the effort can try to understand it.
Well, that's what the whole science thing's about. At least that's what I was taught. But
that's right.
Most of the things I were taught are meaningless today. That's the problem.
Well, true, but I do see that each new generation there is these not just truth seekers or people that really want to get a handle on the real thing, the real deal, the actual truth about the universe, and that's something that sprouts up in every new generation, and oftentimes gets smashed down and trampled. But I still see this. I'm essentially an optimist, even though a lot of bad things are happening, of course.
Well, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. You know, it's like a Noah's Ark. I'm grabbing up Steinmetz, Heaviside, whoever I can find, and throw them on board because it's all going down the bowl pretty quick.
Yeah, that's right. These turn of the century, you have to hand some of these turn of the century beautiful devices that were made. In particular, some of these elegant vacuum tubes and other devices are just amazing. I probably can't even be replicated today.
No, it's pretty much gone. So, well, I guess I was fortunate to grow up all around that stuff while it was live and crackling and humming, because it's gone now.
Yeah, but I still see, if not how, just like the typewriter became, the electric typewriter became 400 mechanical parts down to no mechanical parts, for a typewriter.
Yeah, well, I don't use any of it. I use pen and paper, so.
Right. But that's good. I'm looking forward to. I think I've ordered your book, or I'm going to, and I've downloaded some of your papers, and I get depending on how good my brain is functioning, I can get into it, and I do have a glimmer of understanding from time to time. I do appreciate your work.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yep, from Honolulu. Okay, bye.
Is anybody else have any questions for Mr. Dollard here?
I have another question for Mr. Dollard.
Go ahead.
Having an understanding of the ether, what's the what is the ether? From what I can understand, it's a charge, almost like a charged plate, right? Or a charged space.
Well, nobody knows what the ether is. It's unknowable.
Well, what is it to you, sir?
So much talk about absolutely.
Well, I view it as an unknowable thing. I have to go along with Faraday's theory. That's the Faraday J.J. Thomson theory of electricity is pretty much what I base all my modeling on as far as how I think electricity works. So the ether is like a contiguous particle arrangement, like little beads or seeds or whatever that can be polarized to interlock with each other and come up with some kind of a spatial fibrous structure that's called the lines of force. But you're going out on deep on the end of a limb with that kind of stuff because no one really knows. So I can't. It's like asking me what God is, or where does the sun get its energy from? I can't give you like an engineering answer, but all I can rely on is the engineering and the experiments that are already established has created a technology that's workable, and that's about as far as I can say on that.
Now, I've heard in the past that the capacitor has an interaction with the ether, possibly.
Well, electricity is made out of the ether, so that can be said. Electricity is made out of the ether. So anytime there's electricity, there's an imbalance in the ether, and that gives rise to the lines of force. That's a definite reality. Any more as to what the ether is made out of? You can't think in terms of space, and you can't think in terms of matter anymore.
Okay.
Well, in that respect, if I may, Eric, the Michelson-Morley experiment was supposed to have dethroned the ether for a long time, but why is it that such great minds as Einstein would be fooled by thinking that the ether didn't exist for such a long time? Of course, now it's making a comeback.
Well, you have to remember that Einstein was a media event. So Einstein didn't come up with anything. Einstein's a copyrighted face. You can look it up. He's a copyrighted entity. There's not even any point in talking about Einstein. It's like talking about Santa Claus or Bin Laden.
Okay, well then you agree that Michelson-Morley, a lot of people thought that was evidence that the ether didn't exist, which a lot of people. Yeah, but people believe that a lot of people believe Jesus is going to come in a spaceship and save them too.
So the only way that I can only direct you in a place where you can whack it out on your own. There's a guy named E.T. Whittaker, very famous mathematician.
Yeah, I've heard of Whittaker. True. Yeah, I've heard of Whittaker.
So you have to get his first book, the earliest version you can find, and the first volume, and read that. And of course Tesla, is banned. You won't find a word about Tesla in there, but you'll find everything about everybody else. And he will give you the whole history of the concepts and who did these experiments. Absolutely fascinating. He details every single experiment was done. The last guy to work on the ether concept, I think his name was Lamour or whatever, and everyone just finally threw up their hands is the physical. There is no physical model of the ether.
Okay, no physical model, right? Right. It's not possible, or no 3D. It's multidimensional.
So the best thing to do is, because all this stuff came out of like the minds of one or two people. If you want to form an engineerable concept of the ether, you have to go to Michael Faraday and read his books, and you have to read the books of J.J. Thomson. And I think that will give you the most accurate concept of the ether. And then if you want to take it from there, just about up to the metaphysical level, must reading is the uncensored version of Babbitt's theory of light and color.
Was that Charles Babbitt? What?
I believe so. I forgot for
Charles Babbitt. Yeah.
Yeah. So after about maybe 3 years on those books, you have a pretty good idea what's going on.
Well, exactly, and also Goethe's theory of color.
Yeah, so there's some incredible material in there about his theory of the ether, but those were the prevalent theories of the ether. He didn't make it all up himself. So in Tesla viewed the ether as ultrafine gas. In that sense, you have to remember there's the Mendeleev series of elements has a pre-hydrogen series, and there's three elements there. And it could very well be that what is being considered the ether is a subhydrogen atomic or molecular structure like a gas, but it's so fine that it could just go right through it. So there's all kinds of possibilities, but in my situation, I tend to go the engineering route. So I'm after making specific things that work and not getting too far off into, things that we can't really describe anyway. And all these guys have done such a good job of putting it into an engineerable form that I think if you go back to those references that I talked about, that you'll get the most solid concept of the ether that's possible.
Well, that sounds good. For this the spectrum of elements, which is below hydrogen, that reminds me of Walter Russell and his thinking. Have you read any of Walter Russell's, like The Secret of Light? And he had an educational institution called Swananoa.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Okay, well, Walter Russell, but I definitely will look into Whittaker some more. Definitely Whittaker, the mathematician. I hope I can understand some of his things.
No, his book is mathematical. It's called History and Theories of the Ether.
Okay, I'll look for that.
Yeah, and if you can find the uncensored one before he was forced to change his story, there's a guy named Lynn. What's his first name? Lynn. The guy that wrote that space alien stuff. William Lynn. Yeah. William Lynn wrote two very important books of enlightenment about this subject. One's called Occult Ether Science, and the other one is called Occult Ether Dictatorship.
So that's Walter Lynn?
Somebody stuck one of those things in front of me one morning, a good friend of mine, and I got all pissed off at him that I don't want to be involved in that kind of garbage. And he goes, no, it's saying exactly what you're saying. He said, everything you told me, it's in this book. It's in this book. You got to read it. I go,
what was the name of the book again? What was the name of that book?
Occult Ether Physics.
Occult Ether Physics by Lynn, a guy named Lynn, L-Y-N-N.
L-Y-N-N. William Lynn. If anybody did a popularized Einstein bashing of incredible proportions, it's him.
Okay.
He did it.
A cure ether or something, did you say? Okay.
Occult Ether Physics.
Yeah, occult ether physics. Okay, good. I'll look for that. And thanks so much. I don't want to take, maybe someone else has a question, but I appreciate that, Eric.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sam Falaki calling in from Montreal, Canada. Eric, it's an honor to be able to be on this conference call and speak with you. I just want to introduce myself quickly. I'm loosely affiliated with the Natural Philosophy Alliance and the Electric Universe. I did a degree in electrical engineering about 15 years ago, never practiced, and I have this newfound passion and interest in science, and I'm in this for the fun. Eric, I'm really curious. So I find that the speed of light is very slow, and ever since 6 months or 9 months ago, I've been obsessed with putting together an experiment to prove faster than the speed of light. And I know that watching some of your videos, you mentioned faster than the speed of light on several occasions, and I was wondering if you might have some tips or insights.
They're talking about scalar waves.
Well, it could be scalar waves. For me, Coulomb.
There's no such thing as scalar waves. That's complete garbage. That's like, I
was thinking along the lines of Coulomb's law. There's no time.
Here's the deal with the speed of light. The deal with the speed of light is the speed of light is the ratio of space to time. And that's about it. And it doesn't. Everything. The world doesn't have to operate like that in its entirety, like Einstein tells us. What I found when I started duplicating the Alexanderson system is the waves do not have a velocity at all. There is no velocity. The dimension of velocity has no meaning in dealing with these type of transmission mediums or propagation modes or any of that type of stuff. It turns out to be that it's the dimension of space is not used right. It has to be used upside down. You have to use what's called counterspace. So instead of centimeters per second, you have per centimeters per second. And then there's always the possibility of a scalar transmission, which has no waves at all. That's what scalar means. So when someone says scalar waves, they're saying they're an idiot.
Wow. Thank you.
Scalar is like the constant or the DC reality. So in that case, the integratron of George Van Tassel worked like that. There would be no propagation at all. All points in space would be scalar, and there would be the same point. And because there's no propagation, the effect would be instantaneous. So those are the alternate propagation modes. Now, as far as physics realities of the velocity of light, Heaviside has numerous mathematical explanations of electrons going faster than velocity of light. Tesla talks about his cosmic particles moving at 50 times the velocity of light. In that case, then that is a physical velocity. I started this thing on the energetic forum called the cosmic ray detector to lay the groundwork for people to duplicate Tesla's radiant matter receivers for the pickup particles from the sun. That would be, from the physics standpoint, to try to ascertain the velocity of the solar particles.
Can I ask you?
I was thinking along the lines of, like Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law doesn't have any time variable in there. I mean, I don't care what Einstein said. He didn't create the universe, but I was thinking, how long does it take for the electric field to be detected somewhere else? And I know a lot of people talk about these scalar and longitudinal waves, and I'm not sure what.
Well, the Navy did some experiments on that. The Navy, being the science branch of the military, kind of, they do a lot of experiments and things that the other branches don't do. So all the services fought over who was going to get control of the atomic bomb, like little children. So at any rate, each child ran off in their own neighborhood, and they played with the bomb and set them off everywhere. So what the Navy did is when they blew up these islands out in the Pacific, I knew the guy, Chris Carson, who was a Bell Telephone Navy guy, kind of like me, and he said what they did is they had a way to show me these special oscilloscopes. He had one, very, very, very high-speed oscilloscopes to see what the propagation velocity of the so-called EMP was, and it was instantaneous.
Wow.
That's what I want to reproduce in an experiment, something along those lines. I just want to, I don't know why, it's become an obsession. I just want to demonstrate it. So if you have any,
that's a great idea.
Suggestions or tips on an apparatus, I mean, I have some ideas, but I was thinking of using some of these Tesla type coils and so on. But
that would be one possibility.
You're the master, Eric.
Eric,
that's like starting another, scientific experiment or whatever. I haven't thought about a lot of this stuff for a long time, and that my research is not involved with that now. So I don't know exactly how to start it off with this cosmic cosmic ray thing that I got started, and the telluric thing, which I call the Crystal Radio Initiative. That was one way to actually establish a Tesla link to your local AM radio station, and then see if you can get see if the signal gets there faster than the transformer than it does through the normal AM radio coil. People started on that, but there's a lot of complications with that, and it kind of dried up. But that's one way to do it. I would experiment with a pair of Alexanderson antennas, but those things are really difficult to build. My design is not to be revealed to the public, so you're pretty much stuck with what Alexanderson invented, but that's fine if you're only going to use one frequency. So I put scale models that can be built for the amateur radio frequencies of all this stuff out on the energetic forum.
Okay, Eric,
Thanks. I just want to say thank you, Eric. And by the way, those complex mathematics, when we study electrical engineering, that was one part that we just...
Hello?
Yeah, I think I lost something there.
Unmuted. Anyways, thanks, Eric. I think some other people want to speak, so I'll just...
Okay.
Okay. Hello, Eric?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to monopolize time, but I have two very important related questions for you, if you don't mind answering, because I've been studying. I've been reading a lot about Tesla's technology over the years, and the two questions are this. Number one,
hold on. I just want to ask everybody on the line, if you're not asking a question, if you can go ahead and mute out your own phone. Yeah, we'll be on in just a second. Hold on a second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're back here, and I do see that there's a couple questions posted in Facebook, and we'll get to those right after. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. These are actually just two questions that I've been wanting to ask you for years related to this technology.
Go ahead.
Hello? Mr. Dollard, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but there's a full echo also, so.
Oh, yeah, I don't know where that's coming from.
Well, it's coming from the telephone system.
Oh.
You ever had this with Bell Telephone,
Right. Well, let me try to ask you my two questions, if it's okay.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, the first question I have is this. Would you say that these waves, that the longitudinal waves that Tesla was working with, can essentially be considered mechanical pressure waves, if you will, sound waves in the ether? That's my first question. And then the second question I have is, once this technology became advanced enough and refined enough, is it possible to use it to literally create matter, to essentially, convert energy into matter or something along those lines? And those are my two questions.
Yeah, I've seen indication of that in my early experiments when I was duplicating the Tesla radiant matter. Tesla referred to radio waves as sound waves in the ether, so if that's what he said, and we're following his line of reasoning, then that's what we have to reason the waves to be, is sound waves in the ether.
Okay. And what about the creation of matter? Is that in theory possible?
I've actually seen situations in my early experiments that would indicate that that's a possibility.
Wow. Thank you very much. I wanted to know that.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else there?
Yeah, this is Jim from Germany, and I wanted to thank you gentlemen for putting this together.
Okay.
My question is, would you be willing to go down memory lane and discuss at all any collaborative efforts you had with Dr. Bob Beck?
Well, Bob Beck kind of worked in a different field than I did, but Bob Beck was basically, I would say, he was the first person that got me started in the situation that has led me to be here right now talking to you.
Okay.
He was very supportive of that, and went through a lot of effort to make sure that that I was taken from out of the bushes and put into a public forum and had money for experiments, and he was Bob Beck really did a lot to get me started to start publicizing this stuff. It was Bob Beck and Philo Farnsworth were the two main people that got me into this mode.
Oh, no kidding. Well, thank you for that.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yes, Mr. Dollard. I have one more question about Counterspace.
Okay.
how does Counterspace fit into your circuits? Are you trying to pull a charge off of Counterspace, or just use it as part of the circuit?
No, Counterspace is just one of the dimensions involved in the components. It's not something that you use in a circuit. The mutual induction in any transformer and the capacitance of any electrostatic condenser, both of those fields exist in a counterspatial relationship. So they're already there. It's just a matter of recognizing that and working those elements into the circuit, knowing that it's counterspace and it's interacting with space. So it's not something, I don't know exactly the way your question's worded, if I'm answering you, or the counterspace is just, in reality, the dimension that you have to deal with when you're dealing with mutual inductance and when you're dealing with capacitance.
Well, I've heard you speak of the sun as a transformer of energy, and I didn't know if that had anything to do with counterspace or your idea of that, or.
Well, counterspace, as soon as you get into the subatomic level, the notions of space are gone. It's all counterspatial. And then I know I have made the comment a couple of times, because people, I've been led to believe that the sun is a nuclear bomb burning in the sky, just like, back in the days of antiquity, they believed it was a lump of coal burning in the sky or whatever. It's always got to be something burning. The fuel changes from generation to generation. The sun is hollow. There's no nuclear power at all. It's a lie. Most people, I've studied solar terrestrial interaction with the Earth's radio waves and weather and all that for 4 years at Sonoma State University, and determined through the photographs and whatever that was sent to me by the government that the sun is hollow. There's no nuclear bombs. The only nuclear reactions are in the heavy discharges that arc between the two poles of the sunspots. So I made the statement once that the energy comes from counterspace inside the sun. It comes from another dimensional relationship, from somewhere else that's not really somewhere else, just like the so-called scalar transmission method, where you use the fact that there's some aspect of things that makes them not matter where they are in space. They're all connected together in time. That's complicated, but I hope it maybe gave you a little better idea of what I mean by counterspace. The term counterspace was invented by Rudolf Steiner.
The reason why I question about counterspace was I was thinking of an experiment that Tesla did where he had two charged plates of high potential. It was DC. And then he took a high potential AC source and was able to discharge one of the plates. And to me, that is kind of like a tap to a high static potential that could be completely around you, but not obtainable unless you're able to kind of like pop it or puncture through.
Yeah, that's the complication. Is the force is there, but how do you establish a differential?
So is the sun, in a sense, creating a differential with that force?
Yeah, somehow the sun is as much as I hate using the term another dimension, the sun is getting its activity from another dimension, and even when it comes out as, so-called power or whatever energy, it's not really energy yet. There's still another stage that has to go on. That's why you can't see the stars in outer space. There has to be a process where the primary lines of force are converted into the secondary forms, and then you get the heat and the light and all those kind of things. So the sun only emits primary forms. There has to be physical matter involved somewhere to convert the primary forms into secondary forms, and that's the stuff that our eyes and nerves respond to.
So are you going into there is no light in space and it interacts with matter, kind of like you spoke of the atmosphere as an envelope?
Right. The atmosphere is the converter. Without the atmosphere, you can't see the sun or the stars.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Dollar.
Okay, you're welcome.
That makes sense.
Okay, does anybody else out there have any questions?
My name is Chris. I'm calling from Pittsburgh.
Has Tom Bearden had any influence?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Earlier when you was talking about the ether, my question is the energy in a magnet, it never runs out of energy. It's always there. How does that...
Well, there really isn't any energy there. It's force. But the question is what maintains the force?
Yes.
So that could be a similar situation, like with the sun. Where does the force come from? So it's not, nothing's being burned up or used. There's no matter consumed. So the magnetic condition, something maintains that force. So you could look at it as that it's coming from another dimension, or even inertia's like that. The force that you feel when, you're in a vehicle and you slow down real fast is the same thing. It's a force. It comes from some place that's not really understood.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I've recently come in contact with your Facebook and your website, and I see you have several different offerings, DVD and some books. Where would be the best place for me to get started?
I can't.
Hey, what?
Somebody's got a strong interference going back there.
That's a little bit hard to hear. Okay, well, let's seem to calm down. Go ahead and ask your question again. And if you could speak up maybe just a little bit louder.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just getting introduced to your work and the theories that you're putting forth. And I see you have several books in the offering as well as DVD. To get started in learning what you're talking about, I'm very interested. Would you recommend which item to pick first to start reading or learning?
I'm not quite getting it.
Okay, so your question is out of the different like books and videos and stuff that Eric has available, which one would you recommend? You mean like at the beginner's level?
Yes, thank you.
Would you say Valentine writings as far as the basic?
Well, the RCA book's about as basic as you're going to get. Otherwise...
You mean the wireless giant package?
Otherwise, you're just going to have to go through the book and learn the basics of electricity and electronics.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm an electrical engineer.
Well, then you should pretty much already be there. So then the next thing you want to do is go into Heaviside and Steinmetz and J.J. Thomson.
Could you repeat that, please?
Oliver Heaviside, Carl Steinmetz, J.J. Thomson.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and if you go to archive.org, you can do a search for texts, and quite a few of their books are available as free downloads at archive.org. You can just search by their names, and you'll pull up quite a bit of stuff.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can download them as PDFs from archive.org. There's a couple websites online that has compiled quite a few of these books that Eric recommends by Heaviside, Steinmetz, and J.J. Thomson. I do know some of those books you can download as a free PDF through archive.org. You can just search their names, and you'll see some things come up. So they're around. Almost all of them are for free. Are free downloads online.
All right. Thank you again. Have a good night.
Anybody else have any questions?
I had one more question.
Okay.
Mr. Dollard, what are your thoughts on like telluric Wi-Fi or like an internet that is kind of not wired?
Well, a lot of people have asked about that, but I'm not really interested in contributing any more RFI to the environment. So I'll back out of that one.
So those resonant frequencies are not suitable for us.
Well, it's not a good idea. It shouldn't be done. It's just not a good idea to pump all this heavy RF into the environment and have people swimming around in it, along with their dogs and their kids. It just doesn't make any sense. The power level is just going to continue to grow along with all the beat frequencies and intermodulation. It's the myth of Babylon. The whole thing's going to seize up before long. There's just too many incongruous signals. So there might be a way to do it, but I'm not really interested in pursuing that.
Well, is there a way to adapt your technology or your experiments to maybe create a safer method of communication, or is all
right? It could very well be, because the UHF system that's being used now is absolutely brutal on the human organism. Absolutely brutal. So there's the Tesla type stuff, for example. The X-ray tubes we use today, if you're exposed to them, they can kill you in a very short period of time. The dose you get, only lasts for like milliseconds. If that stuff's on all the time, it's going to screw you all up. Yet Tesla's X-ray tubes were so powerful, they reproduce shadows 20 feet away on photographic plates and cause all kinds of physiological effects, never damaged his body. So that would indicate that there would be another technology that wouldn't be so abusive to the biological world.
You would have to get rid of the transverse, the TEM wave that you call it, the electromagnetic wave.
It has to be an electrostatic system.
So would you be able to convert like a Wi-Fi router to in a sense have a transducer that can listen to that information and then convert it into an electrostatic system?
That could be possible. So I'm doing this stuff with with the Tesla and the Alexanderson projects I'm working on, but these things are more orientated towards like either a specific secure military communications channels, or for studying telluric signals from earthquakes or things like that. It's not. I don't look at this as something just all of a sudden flood on the public and create another billion watts of interference and whatever. So I get kind of standoffish and cagey when I'm asked to produce a popular technology out of this stuff.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I have one more question. Would be so kind as to maybe elaborate on the relationship between ether and orgone and William Weich's work on orgone? Is that something that's interchangeable, or are those things mutually exclusive?
No, they're very interchangeable. The dielectric field, the ether, and Wilhelm Reich's orgone are all this basically directly interchangeable, and that's why what's being built is called the cosmic induction generator. This is something I built in the Marconi building out in RCA to duplicate what Wilhelm Reich called cosmic superimposition, and it worked. I got a galaxy and a light bulb. So henceforth it was called the cosmic induction generator. It produces the creative force that makes the objects that we see in the universe exist, including ourselves.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions out there?
Yeah, I have a quick one. This is Sam again from Montreal. I was wondering, I was trying to wrap my head around this concept of electrons not flowing through wires, and that current, electrons flowing through current is a myth, something that's a lot of people subscribe to. And I was wondering how to wrap my head around that, considering that, in a battery, there's chemical battery, there's so-called electron and proton recombinations and so on. So there's some kind of movement of these, particles. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Well, that's in the battery, but as soon as you get into the transmission system, it's the ether waves that are carrying the energy. The electrons just get dragged along in the wire, and they turn into heat. So the electrons in the transmission system represent the resistance and in essence are undesirable.
Oh, we're done.
All right, so basically it happens at the extremities, let's say in the battery, but once it's in the wire, it's a different...
It's not in the wire, it's in the space bounded by the multiplicity of wires. That's why there's always more than one. It's a waveguide. And then the waves drag into the wires, and the electrons can't possibly move the rate that the lines of force move down the transmission system, so they're just kind of like dragged along sluggishly.
Roger that.
So in other words, people are confusing the waveguide phenomenon with electrons actually moving. The electrons are just waste.
Yeah, it's like, when you drive down the road, there's a certain percentage of the road that's going to move with you, and there's a certain percentage of your tires you're going to lose. So that's what the electrons are. They're the wastage.
I got you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions out there?
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello? Hi. Mr. Dollar, thank you again for this conversation. I actually have a general question for you about the state of the education industry in America, and I'm wondering if you would agree to kind of the essence that bringing creativity back into education and teaching music and art on a more level playing field as all the other subjects would open up the door for people to be a little bit more open-minded about some of the ideas that you're trying to bring about. Would you say that that's a fair statement?
Yeah, there is no education system anymore. It's what's called cattle management.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think if you were to change, one thing, or if you were to change something about the education industry, what would you do?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's hopeless because there's nothing to work with anymore. I abandoned the education system right in the beginning back in, but that was in 1958, and just started reading my own books and hanging out with the power company and the phone company, and doing my own biological research and all those kind of things. So somehow you have to inspire a junior to educate his or herself and to recognize that the school basically is introductory state prison.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of the composer Sergei Rachmaninoff?
Yeah, I have.
I have a kind of a theory about that era of music, the Romantic era with Chopin and Scriabin and Liszt, and my theory is that that music in particular really says something about the consciousness of humanity and kind of like the depths of emotion, and I kind of feel that if that was taught, for example, just like they teach the fundamental aspects of mathematics, fundamental aspects of music would be that era. And I think that if that would happen, then perhaps there would be hope for these kids to be a little bit more open-minded, or at least maybe a handful of them, where that music could give them hope and create that open-mindedness for them to self-educate themselves.
Well, the classical music helps a lot, but the era you're talking about is actually a very destructive era that's caused most of the problems that we have today. It's called Romanticism. Should be avoided like the plague. You have to go to J.S. Bach and then Beck.
Well, I've studied his music as well, but I feel like it's kind of that really deep emotional kind of consciousness is lost. And Bach, I feel like, is a little bit more, I would say, the cerebral cortex kind of thinking, not the midbrain, like the actual, emotional is a bad word to use, but I hope you kind of understand where I'm trying to go with this.
Well, there's all kinds of, you can go many paths, but at any rate, it's all of it's a lot better than listening to hump and slap music.
Yeah, and Justin Bieber, right?
I don't even know what it is. I just hear these pumping and humping sounds come out of the automobiles, and that's why I either have to live in the forest or a soundproof box.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, Mr. Dollar, thank you so much. My name is Daniel Innovate, and I'm actually doing a documentary on the education system all the way up from kindergarten through K through 12 to Sally Mae and the treachery that's going on with that financial industry.
Awesome. Hey, this is Aaron. I just have a comment. Look into Montessori because they're actually doing it right. Montessori is educational models founded by Maria Montessori a long time ago. And there's a movement in the United States where the Montessori educational philosophy, they're actually incorporating Montessori programs in the public schools in small numbers right now, but that movement is growing. And they're looking at expanding that into junior high and possibly high school.
Is that self-directed learning?
Is it what?
Self-directed learning, is that what Montessori is?
Yeah, kind of. They let the children develop who they are based on their own kind of desires and kind of what they gravitate towards, and it encourages them to develop themselves who they are instead of turning them all into this cookie cutter kind of education. And some of the most successful people in the world were all educated through the Montessori system. Normally, a lot of Montessori schools are kind of expensive private schools, but across the country, there are some public schools that do have a number of classrooms in the public schools. But yeah, if you look up Montessori, it lets the children develop their creativity, become leaders, take responsibility. They learn how to resolve conflicts. But they also teach, what would you say, almost like universal philosophies where you're not separated from anything else. So instead of compartmentalizing every little topic and teaching that as a different course, it's all kind of integrated into a holistic model. But yeah, I'd encourage you to look into the Montessori stuff.
Thank you so much. I definitely will.
Okay. So anybody else have any questions?
The Hubble telescope. It sees light from outer space, no atmosphere.
Well, there's something inside the telescope that converts it.
Like a gas or something.
There has to be some kind of diffractive, that's what they had to do with the astronauts. There had to be some kind of medium that would do the conversion. But I haven't been out there wrenching on any of this stuff, and I can't say one thing or another. I just know that research was done on this, and it was determined that the primary light cannot be seen in outer space unless there's a material medium. So if you put a piece of plexiglass or Lexan or something between outer space and the lens on the telescope or whatever mechanism or whatever they have in there, then that could possibly do the conversion. But I can't give anything definite on that. That's outside of my actual experience.
Okay. So the little particles that they have seen floating around weren't first lights, but they could see them.
Yeah, there has to be something to do with the conversion. I didn't quite get all what you said, but there has to be something to turn the primary force into light, whatever that primary force might be, and whatever light might be, because no one really knows any of that. Maybe light doesn't have a speed at all. Maybe it's just something that comes with the light that has a speed. None of these things are really known. The more theoretical things become, the less understanding there is.
Okay. I'm done.
Okay. Any more questions?
I have one last question, guys. Thanks. For those of us that can't escape out of the city and get out to the country, other than smashing your smartphone, what can we do to counteract some of this electromagnetic smog that we're in?
Good luck. You're going to have to be like one of these fairy tale figures, with the servants carrying you in a shielded screen wherever you go, and you can never step outside of it.
Faraday cage.
But what you can do, you can build large reflectors and point it back to where it came from and produce all kinds of destructive phase interference, and maybe have the thing take a squat. So the best defense against electromagnetic technology is a mirror.
Okay.
Eric, can you hear me?
What's he doing?
Yep.
Fantastic. Eric here on the East Coast. I'm the guy that posted the question about the perfect square waves, basically being decomposed into their odd harmonics and seemingly going away, but not going away, I don't think. I mean, is there? Are these going either into Counterspace, or is there a situation where we reverse that where we could?
It's getting the pumps.
I didn't quite get all that, but that's all time domain stuff. There's no space there. Harmonics are all time domain.
Okay, that would So I guess what I was thinking about is this whole idea of the Steinmetz chronovision, right? I mean, I have to assume that they're reassembling, the decomposed harmonics back together into some kind of cohesive image or assembly. So if they're not going out to space, I guess that makes sense why they can actually reassemble them.
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, that was a little bit hard to hear and understand. Did you say you actually posted the question? Was that in Facebook?
Yes, is that Aaron? Yes, I did.
Okay. Let's see. And what's your name in Facebook?
It'd be Eric Harris.
Let's see. Okay, I'm just scrolling down to it. Okay, I'm just refreshing the page right now. I'm going to see if we can.
Sure. It's basically I'm just thinking about this whole idea of and others being able to reassemble harmonics from decomposed either light or sound. Because I'm doing my radio hobby stuff, and I'm mixing frequencies here and there, and I'm seeing things move to the left, move to the right, while I'm moving a primary signal to the right. I'm seeing stuff, and obviously that's the sum and differences, but I think there's something there that I'm not, something to be learned deeper.
Well, when you're dealing with harmonics, there definitely is. So, and then if you're transmitting them through space, then that causes a whole bunch of other conditions. It's extremely complex.
I agree.
With this communications medium, it's really, really hard for me to answer your questions because I can only understand every other word, and somebody has their phone on in the baby's bedroom or something, so I'm listening to somebody's child making noise into the phone, so that's making it even more difficult.
That's a drag. I did post one more comment. We got a group up here in the Northeast. We'd be willing to throw a lot of ground. We'd be willing to throw a lot of ground rods in the ground and the coast telluric communication attempt if you have the equipment still available to you.
Coast to coast telluric communication.
Yeah, I don't have any equipment available. I've lost everything. So I'm gathering up a few things. We plan to have a telluric transmission on the air in about a year on the frequency 1860 kilocycles.
Oh, okay. What the frequency again?
1860 kilocycles.
1860. Okay. Well, I'll try to make some noise over here as soon as you are listening.
Well, there's a whole thing called the Crystal Radio Initiative going on the energetic forum now of a multiplicity of people trying to do this.
I bet.
So what I would do is I would try to get involved with them because usually I'm off on some jeep trail, clinging to the side of some mountain somewhere, and it's not possible to communicate with me. I don't. The whole internet thing I actually shun, and as probably has been understood, it's made all kinds of problems for me too. So. But I do have my own, my projects are moving forward in one neighborhood or another, and so with the thing that we're going to be demonstrating probably in a week, we already have an old Navy transmitter site. Nothing left; it's just the property, but it's going to be made available to us to build a telluric beacon station on the 160-meter ham band. So that project has been initiated, but it's very difficult for me to find any of the equipment anymore to do any of this type of research. Right now, I need a pair of HF receivers to do the ionospheric work there, and I don't even know where to find anything that I can use anymore. I normally use Navy R1051 receivers, either or they don't exist.
What number am I looking for here? 2?
What's that?
There's a lot of numbers. I'll hit every one of them. Maybe I'll just hit every one. You want to go everywhere?
There's a lot of noise, Eric. I'll yield the rest of my time here.
So let's make the deal. If you can find them and mute them, it'd be great.
That's not the one we want.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Eric, in the Facebook, I just posted a little link that says Crystal Radio Initiative and Energetic Forum, just as a reference. Right now, we're going on an hour and a half. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just mute out the call, and then we'll just answer a couple questions that's in Facebook that you can listen to, and then after that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and we can do another one of these at another time. So if you're listening, thanks for joining in. We'll continue to stay on the line, and we'll just read off some of the Facebook questions. Okay, so I think that we're still on the line here. Okay, so we'll just zip through a couple of these questions, and then we can go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm losing steam.
Okay, let's see. Okay, this is a question from Michael Franson. Is an electrostatic field the same thing as dielectricity, or how are they related? Also, isn't an oscillating electrostatic field cause? Also, does an oscillating electrostatic field cause LMD waves?
Yeah, that's all true. The electrostatic is, because these are dynamic waves, the electrostatic wave is not really the right term, so Steinmetz pretty much figured we should eliminate that term and call it dielectric. So being that Tesla and myself have created a whole engineering reality out of this so-called electrostatic or dielectric, then I chose to call it dielectricity, which exists in distinction to magnetism. And any sudden change in the electrostatic field, if it's done in such a way as to not produce a magnetic field, will then be a longitudinal electrostatic wave. J.J. Thomson is the one that describes the physical process, how this comes about.
Matter and electricity?
It's recent researches in electricity and matter. Recent research in electricity and magnetism.
Okay.
And the other one's electricity and matter.
Okay. Some of these references I'm typing into the Facebook, Eric's Facebook thread, so you can look at those for references. Let's see. A question from Anas Abdel Rehem. Can electrostatic fields create vacuums contained by the field lines or lined? Would this be a method in which one could go about when wanting to achieve some type of anti-gravity effect?
No, I don't think there's anything happening there.
Okay. Question from D-Day Explore the Places. What results will we see technologically relative to the primer field discovery? Thanks, Eric.
Well, it's hard to say. Tesla made his own statements about that, of what technology he thought would come out of it. His main idea was the production of light.
Let's see, from Michael Crabtree, what material or antenna configuration is used to detect Tesla's cosmic rays?
That's another unknown, but the Crystal Radio Initiative that I established was the experiments to move in that direction.
Okay, that's
that's on the Energetic Forum.
Yeah, if you go to energeticforum.com and search in the Eric Dollard Forum for Crystal Radio Initiative.
No, not Crystal, the Cosmic Ray Detector, I'm sorry. Cosmic Ray Detector.
Cosmic Ray
Detector.
Detector in energeticforum.com.
Yeah, it's kind of upsetting, nobody really picked up on going anywhere with it. I was disappointed. I put a lot of work into that, and only one guy, a guy named David Dawson, is the only one doing anything at all, and so that was a disappointment for me. But at any rate, the information's there.
Okay, from Grant Clinch, is Tesla technology dangerous to our spirit, energy, or life force?
I doubt it. Nothing could be worse than what we got now.
Right.
That's for sure.
The generation.
Yeah, it's the worst right now. Anything would be better.
Let's see. Let's see. Okay, Brian. This is a question from Brian Hinkle. Is there parasitic capacitance associated with the potential difference across the peaks and nodes of a standing wave on a transmission line, assuming the wavelength is less than the line length?
Well, that component would have to exist, but it's not acknowledged. Most of what is known today is special cases of much more exotic and complicated relationships. Ernst Gilliman points this out in his book that he wrote on transmission lines. I believe it was Communications Networks, that there's all these other forces around the lines and they're just left out. So in general, a longitudinal electrostatic mode on a linear wire is considered to not exist, but being that you brought it up, something like that would have to exist. So you've opened up an interesting question.
Okay. Let's see. Here's a question from Oten Meaton. Hi, Eric. DR Green here. Oh, DR Green. Hope you're doing well. All the questions I have left my mind, but this one just popped back in there. Could you please explain how to calculate susceptance? Thanks.
So the 2 pi times the frequency times the capacitance is the susceptance.
2 pi
times the frequency times the capacitance in farads.
Susceptance in farads
is the susceptance in ohms, or susceptance in Siemens.
Okay, DR Green, okay, 2 pi times the frequency times the capacitance in farads is the susceptance in Siemens.
Right, or per ohms.
In Siemens, or per ohms.
Right.
Okay, and then 2 last things here. Devin Francis Zito, okay, this is just showing a 9-octave table. This is the, looks like Walter Russell's.
Russell, yeah.
Yeah, 3 dimensions. Okay. Okay. Michael Goldman is saying, since the electrons are forced to chase the accelerating potential instead of canceling, what do you think of calling the negative amps associated with the coil collapse, EMF tachyonic positrons? For those who like referring to particles anyhow.
I don't know what to say on that.
Do you think calling the neg amps, would the negative amps be tachyonic positrons?
I don't know what exactly. That's kind of out of my language.
Okay. Mike, for Mike Goldman, yeah, if you want to elaborate on that later, we can get an answer to that. That looks like that pretty much wraps up these. The only other thing was by Ronald Patrick Marriott. Okay, he's just kind of talking about some of the stuff he's involved in. I'm going to refresh real quick, and then if there's not a new question, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and I'll get this up on YouTube in the next 24 to 48 hours for anybody who missed it. Okay, everybody's unmuted right now. Thank you for joining. Thanks for your questions and your support. We're going to go ahead and end this call now. Going to go ahead and give a shout out to Eric, and we really appreciate his time and effort in this. And we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Stay strong, Eric.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, sir.